Somewhere in a small kitchen in 1978, a young mother stood at her counter with $7, a pencil, and 4 hungry mouths to feed for the week. She didn't panic. She didn't call anyone for help. She pulled out a torn piece of notepaper, and by the time she was done, that $7 had become 5 full dinners, 2 breakfasts, and a jar of soup left over for Sunday. That woman was my grandmother. Today, families are spending $300, sometimes $400 a week just to fill a fridge that empties by Wednesday. Grocery prices have gone up faster than paychecks, faster than anyone can keep up with. And yet, the answer to all of it was sitting in my grandmother's kitchen drawer this whole time. 17 tricks. Tricks she used when there was no other choice but to make it work. Number 4 is the one your local supermarket redesigned their entire store layout to stop people from doing. Number 9 can put an extra $200 back in your pocket every single month without clipping a single coupon. These aren't old, dusty, forgotten ideas that don't work anymore. I'm going to show you exactly how she did it then, and exactly how you do the very same thing today, with your phone, your fridge, and your own kitchen table. Before we start, if you've ever stood in a checkout line watching the total climb higher than you expected, hit subscribe, because this video was made for you. Let's count down all 17. My grandmother never once walked into a grocery store without a list. Not a rough idea, a real list, written the night before, based on what was already sitting in her cupboard. She said the store was built to make you forget what you came for, and the only defense was paper and a pencil. Today, that list lives in your phone's Notes app instead of a torn envelope. But the rule is exactly the same. You write it before you're hungry, before you're tired, and you do not add a single thing once you're standing in that aisle. Families who stick to a written list, paper or digital, spend up to 20% less per trip. That's real money, every single week, just from refusing to wander. Trick number 16, shopping only what's in season. She never bought strawberries in December, not because she didn't love them, but because she knew a truth most people have forgotten. Food out of season is food that traveled far, and everything that travels costs you. Today, a simple search, what's in season near me, tells you exactly what's cheapest and freshest this month. Build your meals around that list instead of around what looks pretty in the ad flyer, and your bill drops before you even reach the register. When meat went on sale, my grandmother bought far more than she needed that week. She'd wrap it in wax paper, tie it with string, and label each little bundle in pencil. One trip, weeks of meals. The modern version is simple. Buy in bulk when the price drops, then portion it into freezer bags the same night, flattened and labeled with the date. You're not spending more. You're spending once, for many weeks, instead of paying full price every single time you run out. This is the one that stores have spent millions trying to undo. My grandmother shopped the outer edges of the store first, produce, dairy, meat, bread, and only stepped into the center aisles if something specific was on her list. The center aisles are where the processed food lives, the food with the highest markup and the longest shelf life for the store, not for you. Supermarkets have since redesigned their entire layouts, placing bakery smells and sample stations right along those outer walls, specifically to slow you down and pull you toward the middle. Walk the edges with intention. Treat the middle aisles like a library. You go in for exactly what you need, and you leave. She wore her reading glasses down at the very bottom of the shelf, where the small print lived, comparing the tiny price per ounce number instead of the big, bold number on the front label. The big label is the marketing. The small number is the truth. Today, most stores still print that unit price on the shelf tag. If yours doesn't, your phone's calculator does the same job in 3 seconds. This one habit alone, done every single trip, adds up to real, measurable savings by the end of the year. Every Sunday, she sat with the newspaper flyer and a red pencil, circling whatever meat or produce had dropped in price that week. Then she planned 5 dinners around those circled items. Not the other way around. Today, that newspaper flyer is a grocery app on your phone. Same habit. Check what's discounted first, then build your week around it. You end up eating just as well, sometimes better, for a fraction of the cost. She kept parsley, basil, and green onions on her windowsill, not because she had a big garden, but because those were the herbs she reached for constantly, and they were the ones stores charged the most for the least amount you got. You don't need a yard. A single sunny windowsill and 3 small pots can quietly save you from buying wilted, plastic-wrapped herbs every single week for the rest of your life. My grandmother didn't care about the name on the label. She'd buy the store brand can right next to the name brand can and quietly decide for herself, once, if there was really a difference worth paying for. 9 times out of 10, there wasn't. Today, store brands are made in many of the same factories as the name brands sitting right beside them on the shelf. Try it once with something small. You may find you've been paying extra this whole time for nothing but a logo. This is the $200 trick. My grandmother kept an envelope marked groceries, and once the cash inside it was gone, the spending was over for the week. No exceptions, no borrowing from next week's envelope. It forced a kind of honesty that a card swipe never can. Today, that envelope is a separate banking app category, or a prepaid card loaded with exactly 1 week's grocery budget. The moment you can see the money running out in real time, you shop differently. Families who switch to this simple limit consistently report saving over $200 a month. Not because they buy less food, but because they stop buying things that were never on the list to begin with. Nothing left her kitchen in the bin if it could still be eaten. Leftover vegetables became soup. Leftover rice became fried rice the next night. She called it clean out night, and it happened every single week without fail. Today, the idea is the same. Before your weekly shop, look in the fridge and build one meal entirely from what's already there. It's free food you already paid for, and it stops waste before it starts. She bought a whole chicken. Never chicken breasts already portioned and wrapped in plastic. A whole bird cost far less per pound, and with a sharp knife in 10 minutes, she'd have breasts, thighs, wings, and a carcass left over for soup stock the next day. Every ounce of convenience packaging you buy today is an ounce you're paying extra for. Buying whole and portioning it yourself at home is one of the single biggest per-pound savings hiding in plain sight. She had no fancy refrigerator drawer settings. She had a cool, dark cellar where potatoes, onions, and carrots kept fresh for weeks without spoiling. Today, your fridge's crisper drawer is trying to do the exact same job, but almost nobody sets the humidity dial correctly. High humidity for leafy vegetables, low humidity for fruit. That one small adjustment can double how long your produce actually survives before it turns into money in the trash. Onion skins, carrot ends, celery leaves, chicken bones. None of it went in the garbage. It went into a jar in the freezer, and once that jar was full, it became a pot of broth worth more than anything sold in a can. Keep a simple freezer bag labeled "for broth." Every scrap goes in until it's full. What you end up with is a pot of homemade stock that cost you nothing, made entirely from food you'd already paid for and would have otherwise thrown away. Here it is, the one the stores really don't want widely known. My grandmother reached for the bruised apple, the slightly bent carrot, the not-so-perfectly round tomato, because she knew it tasted exactly the same and cost noticeably less. For decades, stores quietly threw away enormous amounts of imperfect produce because shoppers were trained to only pick the flawless ones off the shelf. Some stores have finally started discount bins for this ugly produce, but most shoppers still walk right past it out of habit. That habit alone is costing families real money every week, on produce that is just as fresh, just as nutritious, and headed for the same dinner plate either way. She always had rice, beans, flour, and oats on her shelf, bought when they were cheapest, never when she desperately needed them that same day. A full pantry meant she was never forced to pay full, panicked price for a dinner ingredient. Build the same base today. A well-stocked pantry of staples means you're shopping on your terms, on sale, ahead of time, never rushed into paying whatever price is in front of you. Every Sunday, one large pot simmered on her stove, a stew, a soup, a big batch of something hearty. By Monday, that single pot had already become 2 or 3 more meals throughout the week. The modern version is called batch cooking, but it's the exact same idea she had all along. One afternoon of cooking replaces multiple expensive takeout nights and multiple extra grocery runs later in the week. The final trick, and the one she believed in most. Even a small patch of tomatoes, peppers, or greens in the backyard, or a few containers on an apartment balcony, meant some part of her family's dinner cost nothing but a seed and a little water. You don't need acres. You don't even need a yard. A handful of containers on a balcony can quietly grow hundreds of dollars worth of fresh produce over a single summer, for the price of a few seed packets. 17 tricks. Not one of them requires special equipment, a big budget, or hours of extra time. Just the same quiet common sense my grandmother carried through every difficult week she ever faced. Updated for the life you're living right now. She never had much, but she never once let her family go without, either. And now, neither will you. If this helped you, do her proud. Hit subscribe and come back next week, because there are 16 more of her secrets waiting to save you even more.